Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Job Merkel, author of his very first book coming out, but I believe that you have actually done a couple of books. So Job, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Great to be here.
So tell us a little bit about these books you've got going on.
Yeah, so for this one that I'm currently writing, it's called Saudade, and I've been working on it for the past 3 or 4 years. I think with this most recent draft, I've decided to, January 1st, 2020, I want to start pitching it to publishers. I've kind of been taking my time with it a little bit, making sure it's where I want it to be. So, and then, before that, I've written a number of other books, just kind of, getting my voice down, kind of just fun little adventure books. So getting more serious about it now.
Excellent. Well, let's go ahead and get started with our questions. And our first question to you is, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Yeah, so my one piece of writing advice to first-time authors would be learn the craft and keep a routine with it. So whatever skills you need to learn, and I think this answer will be different for everyone, find the best way to learn those skills. So if it's dialogue, read a lot of dialogue, get books on craft. If it's voice, which I think tends to be one of the hardest things to learn and really just takes time and words written, seek out books, podcasts, masters you can learn from. Personally, one thing I've really poured myself into in the past 2 years has been short stories and poetry. So for poetry, for example, I'm very methodical about how I learn new skills. So first, I will set a goal for myself, like read a poem, write a poem a day. And then I also carry note cards with me, and I try to pull them out anytime I'm noticing something beautiful or unique about my day. So in that way, I'm kind of training my brain to be able to describe anything at any time, kind of minimizing the distance between when I'm sitting down to write and trying to activate my writer brain, trying to think like a writer more. So for me, that's something that's really important about learning the craft and keeping a routine. And I think it'll be different for anyone. But in poetry, the reason I wanted to learn it is because it teaches you synonyms to use for words that maybe you use all the time, so you're expanding your vocabulary. It teaches you how to be more economical. You're not wasting words. You have to kind of make it this really compact poem. And then you're learning a different form of writing, all of which can translate to your novel.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Getting someone to say yes. I think, I've been writing stories for the past 10 years, and like I said, much more seriously in the past 2 or 3. But the hard part is, finding someone who wants to represent your work. I write a lot of science fiction and fantasy short stories. I've been submitting to places over the past year, and the process can be so difficult. It's competitive. There's tons of self-doubt, rejection, and when you're pouring your heart and soul into your writing, it can be really discouraging. So I think but you get better. Like those form rejections start to become personalized rejections, and you kind of learn which aspects of your writing you need to get better at, so that one day, you can get published.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you are planning to use in your future book launch that you feel is going to work well.
Good question. I think so. I would say some things that have worked well for me so far and that I will continue to do if and when my book comes out. First, I think it's important to be interested and interesting. You can't just be one or the other. Like, you need to connect with other readers and writers. And some of the really good platforms for this, Twitter. I've met some of the greatest, most supportive people, the writing community there, #writing community. People are always kind of rooting for you, promoting your work. I think these kind of things are so important as your book comes out because you already have a platform and a community. Another one is Wattpad, which is you can publish different stories on there, and I published a completed novel. It's a Pokemon fan fiction story. The site is mostly for fan fiction, I believe. And again, the community there is so awesome and engaged. So just these kind of things where you're building up a community. And then I would say the last one, this is a strategy I'm considering trying. I hear some people do this, is that if and when my short stories are accepted somewhere, the plan would be to retain my rights to the story and then publish it on Amazon for free or 99 cents or something. That way people know how I write. I have a good story out there that's been published, so that when my book does come out, I already have people, they know who I am and they've read my work.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Yeah, this was a tough question. My favorite book changes weekly, but I would say probably for the purpose of this question, my favorite book of all time is by an author, Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird. Her book's called Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life. And the number one thing I learned from it is, so she recommends for you to go through your life and write down every memory you ever had. Like, go back to 5 years old, 6 years old, and just start journaling. Like, what were you wearing? What did you, where did you go to school? Who were your friends? What were you afraid of? And this sounds really hard to do, like, to think back that long ago. It's probably hard to come up with memories, but when you sit down to do it, you'd be surprised at how much comes out. And I think what I loved about this is it connects parts of yourself, like my past self, to who I am now. And you start to learn, like, oh, that TV show that I loved when I was 10, oh, that's why I write the character that I do right now. That influence came from there. And as you write these very visceral, deep-seated memories, you are you're writing all these things that have ever happened to you, and you're getting stronger in your voice. And I think out of all the books I've ever read, this is the number one in terms of learning how to do that.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
So my favorite quote actually comes from that book as well, Bird by Bird. And it goes like this. It's a little bit long, but I'll read it. It goes, Perfectionism is the voice of the oppressor, the enemy of the people. It will keep you cramped and insane your whole life, and it is the main obstacle between you and a shitty first draft. I think perfectionism is based on the obsessive belief that if you run carefully enough, hitting each stepping stone just right, you won't have to die. The truth is that you will die anyway, and that a lot of people who aren't even looking at their feet are going to do a whole lot better than you and have a lot more fun while they're doing it. And I really love this quote because not only does it resonate in my writing life, like, you don't have to have every sentence perfect. You can be crazy and wacky with your voice, and you don't have to follow some writing template. Like, just be yourself and write your story. But beyond that, I really attach to this quote in my personal life, like just going up to people and not caring about looking stupid or making mistakes. Like, I'm someone who can be very controlled in my life, and I saw this quote playing out. I would look around and see people just going for things, not looking at their feet. And I'm kind of just like over here, over analyzing, trying to be perfect. And all these moments are passing me by. So I think reading that quote was very powerful. And I could kind of take a step back, look at myself, and apply it to my life.
Well, Job, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Paul. This was great. The best way would be I'm active on Twitter. My handle is Jobicus Maximus, and I'm also on Instagram as Writer Things. I post some writing and poetry on there. And I have a Facebook page called J.A. Merkel, as in Job Abraham Merkel.
Well, Job, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.